This is CBC Here and Now.
This house to me was something that I always loved and dreamed of owning. So instead of it being torn down, we just said, we'll take it and make the best of it.
A scene from the 1960s played out this weekend.
Tonight, why a family floated this house across the bay.
Well, if you like sunshine, you're not going to be too pleased about the forecast through this week, unfortunately.
Election. Yes, another election. This time for leaders within the Halibut First Nation.
I'm going to win because I'm qualified.
A new perspective. I'm about change.
A really high standard of values.
Oh, the time has come for change. Change what? Change the good things we're doing in Halibut First Nation?
Tonight, I'll introduce you to those who are running for chief.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Anthony Germain.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. COVID-19 has killed 2 more people in this province. The Department of Health today reported those 2 deaths and 21 new cases in total over the weekend. There are also changes to the alert levels in central Newfoundland. Here and Now's Garrett Berry joins us live to break it all down. Garrett.
Carolyn, those 2 deaths that were reported today are both in the Central Health region. 2 men, one 60-year-old and one man over the age of 70, and they account for the 12th and 13th death in this province from COVID-19. 6 of those deaths, in fact, have been reported in the last 16 days since the latest clusters were discovered across central Newfoundland. And Carolyn, that makes this the deadliest stretch since COVID-19 reached this province more than a year ago. Of the 2 men that died, one man is in a family that we have told you about on Here and Now. Cyril Benton was 60 years old, and last week we brought you the story of his stepdaughter, Louisa Higgins, when she made her public plea for everybody in the province to get vaccinated. She saw both her mom and her stepfather enter intensive care in the hospital in Grand Falls, Windsor, and over the weekend, her stepfather, Cyril, died. Her mother remains in intensive care tonight, and she is asking for prayers for her family, writing on Facebook that we have to bury her husband today, and she doesn't even know he's gone. How cruel is that? She loved him with all her heart and looked after him, so we have to say goodbye to you today from this side, and Mom loves you so much. Now for today's numbers, the provincial government did report 21 new cases of COVID-19, but that is the total since the last update on Friday. So it makes for an average of about 5 new infections each day, my apologies. Of those 21, 8 are in Eastern Health, 1 is in Labrador-Grenfell Health region, and 12 are in the Central region. 8 of those 21 cases are under investigation. There have also been a number of new recoveries, mostly in Central, leaving 69 active cases. Public Health is also now returning the entirety of the province to alert level 2. Only the area between Twillingate and Boyd's Cove was left in level 3, and Public Health says it has not been able to find an ultimate source for the cases in that region, but it has deemed the risk for further transmission to be low. Reporting live for Here Now, I'm Garrett Berry in Gander.
Well, staying with COVID-19, the Provincial Health Department urges the remaining unvaccinated residents to get the shot, and we spoke to a recovering COVID patient who echoes that plea. Marion Travers caught COVID 8 months ago, and she still feels the long-term effects of the virus.
It's a scary virus. I'm hearing all the people saying about not getting the vaccine. If I could have got the vaccine in early January, I would have had it, and I probably wouldn't be still recovering from COVID. I have lung damage. I had to learn how to eat, and drink, and walk, and talk. I'm not back to my everyday life anymore. I don't know if I'll ever get back to it. It can happen to you. I didn't think it could happen to me, but it did. And you wouldn't want your family or your friends to go through what my family went through.
We'll bring you Mark Quinn's interview with Travers and what she endured spending 18 days on a ventilator on her road to recovery. That's in about 20 minutes on Here and Now.
Well, the temperatures are very different depending on where you are across the province. Temperatures into the single digits pretty much all along the northeast coast. The further away from that you get, Port aux Basques was the hot spot today at 18 degrees and a beautiful 17 degrees in Lab City. That is well above where you should be sitting this time of year for sure. And if we take a look at some live looks across the province, looking fairly nice. A little bit of cloud cover moving in now for the Port-au-Port Peninsula, raining in Lewisport, and then we've got those raining conditions as well. And that is all thanks to this area of low pressure offshore. We're seeing that northerly flow, those cooler temperatures, and that is generally going to stick around for the next couple of days, at least through most of the week. And when we see those northerly winds, that means some cooler temperatures along with some gray skies and some showers, but I'll get into all those details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the health minister promised more help today to deal with the ambulance crunch in St. John's. John Haggie says he's had talks with NAPE after the union repeatedly sounded the alarm about the lack of paramedics and ambulances in the province. Today, Haggie announced the addition of an Eastern Health ambulance along with about 9 new paramedic positions, as well as more offload rooms where paramedics can drop off patients so they can leave again. Haggie said 24/7 mental health resources for first responders are also in the works, as well as increasing paramedic and nurse training. There will be another meeting with NAPE tomorrow, and Haggie says there will be more announcements in the coming weeks.
These problems didn't arise overnight, and they won't be fixed overnight. But I think this is another step in the right direction. The discussions that we're having are around how can we train as many healthcare providers across the board in the specialties, the disciplines that we need, and do it in a way that makes sense and we have the capacity to do.
Well, nearly 20,000 people are eligible to vote this week in another election in this province. This time it's for leadership within the Halibut-Mi'kmaq First Nation. 4 people are running for the top seat of chief, and the biggest issue they're hearing on the campaign trail, the enrollment controversy. Here now's Colleen Connors breaks it down for us tonight.
Election signs at every intersection. Mi'kmaq fighting for the top spot in one of the largest bands in Canada. The Halibut First Nation election starts next week, and 3 candidates from the West Coast are trying to take Chief Brendan Mitchell's spot.
We need to move forward in a more positive light.
Sparks started campaigning in May. The biggest issue he's hearing at the doors, membership. The federal government established Halibut First Nation 10 years ago, and 24,000 people were recognized as founding members. But within a few years of being established, more than 100,000 people came forward claiming to be members too. The federal government reevaluated membership in 2013, which saw some disqualified, like Sparks' family members.
So I'm hoping to effect that change and be the voice, in unity with the rest of our people and our families, and certainly to be the voice at the table with the federal government.
Candidate Peggy White, chief of the Three Rivers Mi'kmaq Band, who has a law education, is saying the same thing.
With my credentials, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to stand up against Ottawa and say, this is harming our people, and this enrollment process has done so much damage to the credibility, respect, and dignity of the Mi'kmaq people, and it has to stop.
White and Sparks believe Chief Mitchell didn't handle the enrollment process correctly and feel they can do a better job at fighting government. Mitchell disagrees.
So we are on a solid foundation right now, and I'm not interested in anybody coming in here and cracking that foundation.
Mitchell is the current chief and has been for 6 years now. He says he will continue to push the federal government to resume talks about enrollment, something that was paused in March of this year over ongoing court action.
There's no easy solutions.
Prominent Mi'kmaq leader Odell Pike is also running. She's an elder who received the Order of Newfoundland and Labrador. She believes enrollment is complicated.
And even though people may think that the federal government is not in control, they are. So we just need to we have to establish good relationships and find new means of how we can handle this problem.
While all 3 feel they can tackle it better than Mitchell has, he believes voters should stick with him for another 3 years.
Change what? Change the good things we're doing at Halibut First Nation? Change the good leadership we're showing at our council? Change the leadership that I'm showing? Change for what?
Band members have a few more days to decide who they want to lead and make the tough decisions around who's in and who's out of the band.
Well, voting for one of these candidates is a little different in this election. Members of the Qalipu First Nation have from October 14th to October 22nd to vote, and they can cast that ballot by phone or online. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, from an impending election to a recent one, the new City Council was officially sworn in at St. John's City Hall today with some new and some familiar faces added. Former Deputy Mayor Ron Ellsworth returns as a councillor at large. And there are three new faces to council. Jill Bruce represents Ward 1, Carl Ridgely in Ward 5, and the city's first transgender councillor, Ophelia Ravencroft, for Ward 2. Mayor Danny Breen and Deputy Mayor Sheila O'Leary will return to their roles. They won by acclamation.
The thing is,
Well, the family of an inmate who died by suicide at Her Majesty's Penitentiary is calling for changes to what they say is a failing corrections system. Over the weekend, Gregory Pike's family led a protest outside the penitentiary. The family says Pike was unsupervised and desperately needed help with his addiction and mental health issues, but was denied that help. The family told us that Pike breached his bail conditions to not use drugs or alcohol and was sent to jail after he relapsed. While incarcerated, his family was able to get him into a rehabilitation center, but the court denied him bail. Pike took his life 2 days after being denied bail. The family is demanding officials change the system.
Gregory Pike should have never ended up behind these walls. One judge made the decision to put him in HMP instead of do what mental health and addiction specialists said he should do for a treatment plan. That's unfair. He should have never ended up in there. Once he did end up in there, he wasn't getting the services he needed for what was wrong at his life in that time, and we know what it led to. And his family are trying to change things for people like my son, who is presently incarcerated.
You got to get to the source of the addiction, otherwise the addiction never go away. Crime will never stop. So you can keep adding and increasing the size of a penitentiary, but why don't you shrink the size of a penitentiary, increase the size of a rehabilitation center, and put these people back to be a contribution to society.
People who have drug addiction should not be put behind bars. My brother did not, he never ever hurt anybody, he never ever did anything wrong. He had a drug addiction.
I really miss my brother. I just wish that he knew how much he was loved, and I wish he didn't give up. Like, I just keep saying, Gregory, if you had to hang on just a little bit more. I know he was really sad because he didn't get into that rehab facility that we, and he died 2 days later.
Gregory was not watched. This should have never happened that night. Never ever happened. They knew what Gregory was like, they knew how bad he was, and Gregory should have been watched.
If the proper protocols were followed, and
this wouldn't have happened.
This could have been prevented.
And I wouldn't be here with my son today, and his little heart be beating, and he'd be home with his family where he belongs, and he'd be in that, he'd be at the Grace Center.
When a scene reminiscent of the 1960s resettlement era, a couple on the West Coast floated their house across the bay yesterday to a new location. Danielle Penny and her partner Kirk Lovell towed the large two-story wooden structure about 1 kilometre by water in McIvers along the Bay of Islands.
Yeah, about 15 people in dories both pushed and pulled the house towards its final destination. Our CBC radio colleague spoke to homeowner Danielle Penny about the process.
This house to me was something that I always loved and dreamed of owning. And it's just, I don't know, it was the little greenhouse on the point that I loved it. I talked about it to my friends, my family. Everybody knew that my heart always belonged to this house. And now that I was given the opportunity to take it and move it to our own location and make it our own family home is more than I could ever dreamed of. It was being torn down. So instead of it being torn down, we just said, we'll take it and make the best of it. See if it can withstand the water, and if it's meant to be over there, it's meant to be. And according to yesterday, it was meant to be. My father moved lots of houses on land, so we knew that when I asked him, he said, yep, it can definitely be done. And Kirk's brother, Kerry, we asked him, he floated a little boathouse out to his cabin, Brights Cove. So we talked to him about it, and he said, yep, everything, you just got to get the barrels, you got to get all your stuff lined up, jack her up, and do everything, and then put her in the water and try it. For me, I wished I was like the bystanders who got to watch it, not witnessing your house coming across the bay and wondering if it was going to be at the bottom or it was going to make it the whole way. We had a couple obstacle courses, but it went very smoothly, and we're glad that now we have a beautiful home over there, and the community supported us, and our family, our friends. We are so thankful for everybody.
This year there seems to be a lot more in the inner city area, Mount Pearl, St. John's.
Saving the storm petrels.
The community effort behind keeping the little birds safe this time of year.
Welcome back. Well, farms and pumpkin patches, certainly a popular way to spend a fall afternoon here in the province this time of year, especially at a it's a busy time for a very well-known farm in the St. John's area.
Yes, many families took on the blustery weekend weather and spent their holiday weekend picking out the perfect pumpkin or buying their fresh Thanksgiving vegetables.
Thanksgiving week is our busiest week overall throughout the whole year. A lot of people are buying fresh vegetables and turkeys. We raise our own turkeys here on the farm. We have so many people coming in and out to take nice fall pictures and to pick out their perfect pumpkin. Pumpkin Fest includes our animals like always, so you can go feed the animals, look at them, pet them. It also includes our wagon ride. So you just hop on the wagon and you get a 15-20 minute tour of our fields. There's also activities and prizes you can win as well. It is definitely a tradition. It's something I used to go to when I was a kid. A lot of people are bringing their kids. It's definitely kid-oriented around here.
We are here with our family and
we're picking pumpkins to carve for Halloween.
We are picking pumpkins to carve for Halloween. We're here every year, and we come throughout the year as well to go to the petting farm and to come here and get some fresh produce and things like that. Yeah, we're fairly regular here.
Oh, what a cutie. And it was certainly a very blustery weekend to be out and about like that. I don't know about you folks out there, but I had some damage on my property, kind of similar to the hurricane recently. A lot of branches, big branches down and stuff.
Yeah, I think whatever Hurricane Larry didn't really maybe damage, but didn't actually fall. I think.
Yeah, the wind finished the job on the weekend. Yeah,
it definitely did. Lots of branches down. Winds, I think, were gusting. Didn't get the numbers exactly, but I think upwards of 107, I think, is what St. John's reported. A number of areas seeing some higher wind gusts than that. But yes, it was a very windy weekend.
It was. Nice and calm now, though, right?
Much nicer.
What do we have in store now for the next few days?
Well, it's not looking great depending on where you are across the province, unfortunately. But let's take a look at the temperatures right now. We're still in those single digits pretty much all along the northeast coast, and then still a beautiful evening in Port aux Basques right now. 17 degrees with a little bit of cloud cover, but this is what is going to happen over the next couple of days. You can see the time changing there. This area of low pressure essentially stalling offshore, and we see that counterclockwise rotation. And when we see that low offshore, we see that northerly flow, and a lot of times around this time of year, you start to see the cloud cover along with that, some cooler temperatures, and also as that area of low pressure moves closer, like it does as it gets to Friday, we're going to see that chance of showers pretty much stick around. Drizzle to start for the week, at least through midweek. We're already at Tuesday, but we are going to see that pretty much stick around right through the week. Best weather will be along the southwest and then up through portions of Labrador as well, as you see ridge of high pressure generally dominate your weather. So that's why we're seeing some breaks in the cloud cover today around the southwest and then parts of Labrador as well. That's pretty much where that ridge is. And then we've got that low pressure system offshore, which is driving all that cloud cover and drizzle tonight, and that will generally be the story. Now, as we get into the early morning hours, we might see some cloud cover move in across most of the province. In fact, by morning, most of the island will be under some cloud cover. Some periods of rain across Labrador, at least Lab West, and then that cloud cover will move in the early morning hours towards central Labrador as well. So temperatures tonight going to dip quite chilly for especially low-lying areas, but we're looking at lows between 3 to 7 degrees, or 8 degrees rather, across the island, with that shower and drizzle continuing with those winds out of the north about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. Up across Labrador, a beautiful night still for Lab City. 11 degrees, although rain the story, but your temperature still, that's more than what you should be seeing as your daytime highs this year. So certainly some nice temperatures. And then we've got generally looking at clear skies through central and northern Labrador, and then that shower activity in that onshore flow for southeastern Labrador. So as we head through the day tomorrow, I'm kind of going to sound, really through the week, I'm going to sound like a broken record when it comes to the weather. It's fairly quiet. The good news about that stalled low offshore is we're not really going to see anything too significant weather-wise, but it will be a lot of gray days, a lot of cooler temperatures, and tomorrow will be no different. So like I said, it'll start fairly cloudy, but by the afternoon, most areas along the west and south will actually start to see some sunshine. Same thing for southeastern Labrador. Otherwise, the rest of the province will see those cloudy skies and the potential for some drizzle through the day as well. And temperatures into the afternoon, not going to be too much different than what we're seeing today. So hovering around 8 degrees tomorrow for St. John's. Those winds also staying quite breezy, 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. The southern areas looking a little bit warmer. Marystown should see a mix of sun and cloud as the afternoon rolls through. You'll probably see some peaks of sun. And then the south coast as well. Some fog possible in the morning, but that should lift. And then you're looking at some showers for pretty much everywhere else, but some sunshine, it looks like, for Gander. Same thing for Grand Falls, Windsor. You may see a few peaks of sun as the day goes on, but the weather will certainly improve towards the west coast. Look at those temperatures, 13 to 16 degrees. Another beautiful day for you in Port aux Basques. Again, the periods, or rather the patchy fog, will lift by the time we get to the morning hours. Temperatures into the single digits for St. Anthony. Same thing for southeastern Labrador. Some sunshine for Cartwright tomorrow. And then you're looking at your temperatures. Again, a beautiful day, 14 degrees for Happy Valley, Goose Bay, with some sunshine, more likely some cloudy periods through the day, but that rain will continue for Lab West. 16 degrees in Lab City again tomorrow. Now enjoy that, because the temperatures are certainly going to drop, but I'll get into those details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, St. John's and surrounding areas saw a lot of unusual visitors this weekend. Storm petrels often wind up on roads that are close to seabird colonies. So when they started showing up in town, a massive community effort followed. Chrissy Holmes has that story.
Dramatic. Volunteers have been beating this path for over a week.
Hey.
Delivering boxes of storm petrels.
How many do we have today?
We have 3. Well, I have 2 more boxes.
It's been a busy bird 2 weeks, I think. The petrels, the storm petrels, are coming in. It's normal this time of year, from late September right through to November. We get a lot of them. This year there seems to be a lot more in the inner city area, Mount Pearl, St. John's.
6 from the Village Mall.
Again, hey? Village Mall was where a lot of them were found this year. We had people report that they were out standing by the mall and just hearing them hit the side of the mall.
Petrels were picked up this morning all over downtown, even in the suburbs of Mount Pearl.
I've burned 75 kilometers today, just picking them up. I probably put that on my truck every day for the last week, because it's the busy season now for the petrels leaving their nest.
What's more, townies don't have a lot of experience with stranded seabirds.
What street did we find them on?
Montana Drive. That's out towards Paradise.
Okay.
Over the last couple of weeks, they've been landing in unusual places.
They're fledging from Baccalieu Island, so they're all leaving their nesting area. They're attracted by the lights, the artificial lighting that we have along the coast that draws them inland. It confuses them. The wind direction plays some part of this. He's small, he's young. They're younger birds, they're not experienced flyers. You do get adults in as well, but right now we're having a really big fledgling season. And where did we get this little guy?
Last night my husband was walking our dog and ended up seeing it on the road in Petty Harbour. So we actually just decided we needed to do something.
Artuso says she thought the bird was injured because it was in the middle of the road.
They're not actually injured. They're flapping on the ground just because they can't move no more. Once they hit concrete or pavement or grass, they're done. So they try to run away and they can't actually move. So people think they're injured, but they're not actually injured. So I'll take them and then we'll bring them to the rehab, and then they'll be released in dark of night with hopefully a nice moon, and then they go right back out to sea.
We will do mass releases at night. Last night we did 30. That were all brought in from people in the community, everywhere from Mount Pearl. We've had them driven in from Bay Roberts. There's a lot, like I said, coming in from South Dildo. For some reason this year, quite a few. But Bay de Verde is probably the biggest hit this year. They've collected close to 2,000 out there. Yeah, in one weekend.
Baccalieu Island is just outside Bay de Verde and has the largest storm petrel population in the world. The birds are now on a watch list, which is why CPAWS is collecting population data. Brown Goss says she's been touched by how many children have taken an interest.
Yep, cute bird inside.
So families are coming in, kids are bringing them in boxes, kids are helping release them, educating the next generation. If they don't care, then they won't protect it. So I think it's our job to make sure that they do.
And Brown Goss says that includes busting myths.
If you touched a small bird or a baby bird, that his mother would reject it, and it's a myth, and it's one that's been perpetuated for years. Birds don't go by smell when it comes to their babies.
She says it's okay to pick up a bird and put it in a safe, dry box for safety. She says to use gloves, but if you don't have those, to wash your hands after and call a rescue group for advice or for pickup.
I've gotten up out of bed at midnight and gone and collected some petrels too, because people have found them that late at night. So, there's no limits on when I'll go to get an animal, ever.
Bye.
The volunteers say the busy season isn't over yet. On top of rescuing them, they say another thing you can do is turn off outdoor lights at night so the birds won't fly toward them. Chrissy Holmes, CBC News, Torbay.
It can happen to you. I didn't think it could happen to me, but it did. And you wouldn't want your family or your friends to go through what my family went through in the past and still going through the past 8 months.
Marion Travers spent 18 days on a ventilator. She didn't see her family for weeks upon weeks.
Several months later, she's still recovering. Our interview with Here and Now's Mark Quinn coming up. Well, as we heard earlier in the show, a 52-year-old Paradise woman who contracted COVID-19 back in February says she's still fighting the lingering effects of the virus. Last winter, Marion Travers spent 18 days on a ventilator at the Health Sciences Centre. Now she says it's still a struggle to even climb stairs. This is the moment she was finally reunited with her two daughters. This reunion happened after 2 months of being apart. While Travers was in the hospital, during that time, her family wasn't allowed to see her in person. Now, months later, and Travers is still struggling with the effects of COVID, she sat down with Here and Now's Mark Quinn to talk about her ordeal and why she supports vaccination.
So thanks so much for speaking with us, and I guess take us back to the beginning. What happened at the beginning? When did you first find out you had COVID?
It was February the 17th was when I had my second. I had two tests done. The first one came back negative. The second one I was positive. I just had flu-like symptoms and cough and temperature, and like I was on the go for a few days, but then I don't remember a lot after probably 3 or 4 days before I went into the hospital. It was off and on. And my public health nurse called me and she asked me how I was doing. And all I can remember of that conversation was she said, okay, I'm not going to clear you yet. We wait another few days. I'll call you back on the weekend. That was February the 24th. So my husband then got a call from his public health nurse and he got clear that day. And he asked her, could he ask her a few questions? And she said, well, she's not my patient, but, you know, go ahead. So the two of them were talking back and forth, and she recommended that he take me to the health science. And anyway, she called ahead, and they were expecting me, and he brought me down to the health science. I can remember going down Kenmount Road, and I can remember when we got to the health science, he had to help me into the wheelchair because at that point I wasn't walking on my own. And I can remember looking at him and saying, I'll see you in a week or so. I can barely remember the emergency. I remember nurses coming all dressed up, but then they said I sent a picture, my family said I sent a picture to them saying, on my way to ICU. And then I told them I was on 100% oxygen and I was feeling a lot better. And so anyway, the next day they came in, they told me they were going to put me on the ventilator. I can remember the doctor telling me about it, and I asked, could I call my mom and dad and Rick and the girls? And he said, sure. And I don't remember the conversation with them. I just remember saying to my mom, is dad there? And they say I spoke to them all, but I don't remember. And 18 days later, when my husband came in the room and said, he was coming in all smiles, and I'm there, okay. Like, to me, I was just there in the hospital. I couldn't sink into me that it was 18 days that I was on a ventilator, and it wasn't, you think can't happen to you, but it can happen to you.
And I just want to back up a bit, because back then when you were diagnosed, were you eligible for a vaccine? Were they available yet? No, so you weren't vaccinated. And as well, do you know how it is that you got COVID?
It was in the Mount Pearl cluster. One of my girls was a coach at a volleyball tournament.
And she got COVID?
And she got COVID, and I can remember when she got the call, and I was standing in the door, and she started to cry, and I said, if I could take it from you, I would.
And then eventually, as you say, you ended up in hospital and you were on a ventilator for 18 days. Do you remember any of that time at all?
I dreamt a lot. I had a lot of dreams. I dreamt my niece got engaged. But every dream I had, I was in the hospital, in different places of St. John's. I was up in Signal Hill in a hospital, and my dad was lying next to me in my bed, holding on my hand. My mom was sitting in the chair next to me. Like, it all seemed so real.
And then when did your memories start coming back, Jim?
I got they took the ventilator out, I think I was on a Wednesday, and Saturday morning, I sent my sister a text. It was a foolish text, I guess, and she came back to me and said, Marion, honey, you're in the hospital, you need to rest. And when she said that, it clicked, and I can remember everything after that.
And what was your recovery like? What did you have to relearn?
I had to learn how to eat, and drink, and walk, and talk. I remember it was the first time the nurses took me up and my two legs went from under me. It was a scary comeback, not knowing I was there for 18 days and then come out and thinking you can do all this stuff, but you can't. It's a scary virus.
I know you want to talk about the care that you received. What was the care like that you...
Oh my God, I can't thank the nurses and the doctors enough. In the ICU, the COVID ward, the last ward I was on has been, oh my God, I will never say a bad thing about a nurse no more because they just went above and beyond for me. And I had two special nurses that's helped me along the way, and one is still texting me, and well, both of them are still messaging me, making sure I'm fine. But the care was, I couldn't ask for no better.
Do you remember when you came home for the first time? What was that like?
Oh yes, it was. I was really tired actually when I got home, and I can remember seeing my girls up on the stairs, and my little dog was downstairs barking. I could hear him barking, and they let him up once I sat down because they were afraid he was going to knock me down. He went up one side of me, down the other. But it was a good feeling to be home.
Obviously, you've been through quite an ordeal. What is it that made you want to speak publicly about it?
I'm hearing all the people saying about not getting the vaccine. I don't know why, because they don't believe in medicine. I'm not sure, but you know, it's for me, if I could have got the vaccine in early January, I would have had it, and I probably wouldn't be still recovering from COVID. I have lung damage, mild lung damage, but is there. I'm not back to my everyday life anymore. I don't know if I'll ever get back to it.
Was there any one thing that really sparked you to speak publicly?
I was listening to Open Line, and there was a lady on saying she wasn't going to get a vaccine, and my husband listens to Open Line every day, and anyway, I was on my break, and I came out, and I said, no, I'm done. Okay, I want to tell my story and let them know how sick I am and I'm still recovering from that horrible virus.
So what's next for you? I know you work here at Memorial University. Are you back to work?
I'm doing ease back now from home till I see my respiratory specialist in December and see what he has for me.
Finally, what's your message to people who are following the story, of course, in COVID, and everyone's involved in it, of course?
It can happen to you. I didn't think it could happen to me, but it did. And you wouldn't want your family or your friends to go through what my family went through in the past, and still going through the past 8 months.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, all of us in this province love it when visitors say kind things about this place that we call home. And freelance travel writer Brendan Spiegel almost has a fan club here now after the New York Times published a story that he wrote about a trip that he took here with his family. And Brendan joins me now from Brooklyn. So Brendan, for viewers who haven't read your article, I'm not sure there may be very many now, could you summarize that New York Times article for us?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. So my wife Holly and I we flew to St. John's, and then we did a 4-day road trip around the Irish Loop. And kind of the thrust of my article was all just about how I'm Irish, my mother's from Ireland, and I've spent a lot of time there, and being up in the Irish Loop really felt, it just felt so much like Ireland. It was really exciting to discover these small towns and the music and the culture and the people and discover this Ireland, Newfoundland connection.
Well, there's no question that your observations in the New York Times, I mean, people can call it earned media, journalism, free publicity, whatever it is. People were thrilled to see it in such an important publication as the New York Times. But I'm interested in the story behind the story. Why did you come here?
So my wife and I were looking for a summer vacation fairly close to home. We had at the time a 3-year-old son, and she was pregnant with our second son. She was quite pregnant, I think about 7 months. So somewhere cooler than New York was definitely on the must list, but we didn't want to go too far away, because we were leaving our 3-year-old with my parents for a couple days. So the genesis was that our last kind of baby moon, as you call it, we went up to Montreal, and that was much, much too hot for her. That was when we were pregnant with our first child. And this time she was pregnant again, and she said somewhere cooler than Montreal. So I just started looking further north on the map, to be honest, and I didn't know anything about Newfoundland. And, I'm kind of a nerd about geography, and there aren't a lot of places I don't know anything about. So I looked at Newfoundland and I said, what's there? And I started reading about St. John's, and it sounded really cool. And then I started reading about the Southern Shore as well.
So when you say St. John's sounded really cool, there's like a double entendre there.
Yes, the initial attraction was that it would be nice and cold for sure. And then, just when I started looking at the photos of the town, I said, oh, some of these streets look a little bit like San Francisco or Copenhagen or something. And views of the harbor look so striking. We were just really excited to check it out.
Just to be clear, so that the steamy Brooklyn Big Apple heat played a factor in this, right?
Yes, absolutely. Summers here in New York are not so nice, and they're getting a little worse every year, actually. This summer, it felt downright tropical. We had a couple hurricanes. It's just steamy every day. So more and more, we're always looking to get out of the city in the summer.
As you probably discovered when you came here, some people complain about the weather here and the fact that it's cold. And maybe there's a comparative advantage here, because I think of New York, Boston, Montreal that you mentioned, Toronto, all of these cities on the eastern seaboard. Maybe there are more people like Brendan Spiegel who want to escape the heat. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's only getting hotter every year here in all those places, right? So it's only getting warmer everywhere, which is worse in New York in the summer and better in Newfoundland in the summer. So I think it's only going to get more and more attractive to people, especially, people in the States who probably think in general of Canada, they're like, oh, isn't it really cold there? But actually, when I was in Newfoundland in August, it was lovely.
All right, Brendan, I think a lot of people, especially people watching in the tourism industry, are going to put an extra donation in the Brendan Spiegel fan club that I mentioned. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks so much, Anthony.
So escaping Brooklyn and Montreal heat for the weather here? Well, that got us thinking, so I asked MUN business professor Tom Cooper if maybe our cooler summers present us with something of an opportunity.
That's a great question, Anthony. We live in instant air conditioning. We don't think about some of the things in front of us. And when you step off a plane coming from New York or Toronto or even Dallas, where it could be 40, 42, 35, 36 degrees, and suddenly you're in 18, 19, 20, that can be really nice for a lot of people. As Brendan said in his interview, it's getting hotter and hotter in these cities. They're unpleasant, it's sometimes not a great place to live in the middle of the summer. We should just be going out and saying, hey, come take a break. Be a little bit more cool. There's lots of things, once again, that we just take for granted. And being able to sit in temperatures where you don't have to worry about where's the nearest air conditioning, or where's the nearest cool drink, or where's the nearest swimming pool, can be an advantage for a lot of people.
Still on the topic of travel, starting next month, travelers will be able to fly to the United States, but they will have to have received COVID-19 vaccines approved or recognized for emergency use by the World Health Organization or the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Now, that paves the way for many more Canadians to travel south of the border. However, the new rule does not address people with mixed doses, which includes millions of Canadians. One expert believes global standards for vaccines are within reach.
It's obviously taken a little bit of time, and that's frustrated Canadians. I completely understand. But at the end of the day, if we have reasonable global standards for what's an acceptable vaccine, I think that will smooth travel out globally, and especially for many Canadians that did the right thing, rolled up their sleeve and received the vaccine, including the mixing and match vaccines.
Canada is one of the few countries that opted to mix vaccine types for their first and second doses. Officials have shared data with governments of high priority destinations about the efficacy of mixing vaccines. Canada is also working with the U.S. to recognize different vaccine strategies, including extended intervals between shots. Okay, so time for a look at the long range. We might as well just settle in and accept the rainy, cold weather that we'll be having here in the east for the next few days.
Correct.
Okay. But beyond that, is there any light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes, there is a little bit of a break in the weather as we get towards the end of the week. But yeah, it's mainly just for areas along the north coast. Let's take a look at the future tracker. And that's thanks to that area of low pressure. But you can see there's some breaks in the cloud cover for the southwest. That is mainly where the nicest weather will be over at least through Thursday, because we are going to see the next weather maker move in, or at least the chance of showers, I should say, move in on Friday. But there's that area of low pressure bringing some rain on Thursday for most areas along the northeast. Could even see some snow in the mix for northern areas of Labrador. And then as we get into Friday, that area of low pressure gets closer, but then eventually it moves off. And then that's when we should see a little bit of a break in the weather for Saturday at this point, it looks like. So as far as temperatures go, hanging on to these single digits for the most part in that northerly flow, but the further away you get from that, Port aux Basques, 14 degrees for Thursday, 13 in Corner Brook with a mix of sun and cloud, and 11 degrees for Marystown. Same thing for you. Generally gray skies up across Labrador though. Happy Valley, Goose Bay going back down to 9 degrees, 12 for Lab City, and then those cooler temperatures for northern Labrador, and then again that risk of some snow in the forecast. By the time we get to Friday, those warm temperatures that you've been seeing for Lab West will end back down to the single digits, along with the chance of some showers, but not a whole lot different forecast or change in the forecast rather for the island. You're still looking at temperatures around 8 to 11 degrees. The warmest again, Port aux Basques, 16 degrees and sunshine to start your weekend. So looking beautiful. Once we get to Friday, though, we are looking at that or some breezy conditions, but taking a look at that forecast, best chance that we'll see some sunshine at this point looks like Sunday, although it does look cloudy, but we may see a few peaks of sun. Temperatures are gradually going to warm up as well. And then for central Newfoundland, gray skies right across the board with that chance of showers as we get to the end of the weekend, though some warmer temperatures. Same thing for western Newfoundland. Eventually, your skies will turn gray with that chance of showers. And then as far as Labrador goes, you're looking at single-digit temperatures through Saturday, Sunday, getting back up to those double digits. And then there's those cooler temperatures for Lab West, but your overnight low still staying well above zero. Now, just before we leave you tonight, had to share this shot. The trailway near South Branch. I love when we see the photos when it's flat calm.
Yeah.
Yep. No wind, no rain.
Reflection.
And the clouds are beautiful. Yeah, Andy Keeping shared that shot with us. And if you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Gorgeous. Thank you, Andy.
Yep. Great snap. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.